Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the United Front Football Podcast with me and Mr. M. Breezy. It's been a little while. I have been deathly ill. Rumours of my demise have been over-exaggerated. But yeah, I think it's been like two or 3 weeks, hasn't it? But like,
yeah,
it's been quite a while. So we've got a lot to catch up on. Yeah, COVID followed by flu, followed by just the recovery process of that. It's the first time, like, my voice is still croaky, but like it's the first time in ages I've actually been able to like speak without, my voice actually disappearing.
Yeah, it didn't help that every week we missed one. It was like after a Man United loss. Yeah. I was kind of like, oh, what a surprise! Man United lose again. Dan's not available.
I'm just out there like licking door handles.
Yeah.
please. God, yeah. So it's been a hell of a I was going to say Christmas period, but like hell of a December. Like for everything that's gone on, the ups and downs of everything. But welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to be doing our best to get this back on schedule and being a weekly thing. So save me getting, I don't know, death.
Or polio or something.
So you see what other things I can catch.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess we'll start off with the wonderful West Ham. Quite a December. Some unexpected results.
Where the hell did that come from?
I don't know. Like, it felt like it was just like on a downer all season until December. Then it's like, oh, we're 7th.
Yeah, we're sick. No, we're sick now.
Oh,
like,
we're sick now. Yeah,
flying. Yeah, it's mad. Like the thing is, like you said, I think because there's been a lot of, and we'll get onto the Moyes conversation in a bit, but like obviously there's been a lot of like talk about him in his future and stuff. In the last 6 months of his contract, and like we've touched on this before, but I felt like the sort of viewpoint from the outside looking in has always been like, you're doing really well. You're in like the top 8. Like I think prior to the I don't know, let's say the Wolves game, for example, like, we'd lost 1 in about 7 or something like that. Like our form was really, really good. My point was always the performances, though, weren't really matching the results. And my fear was that like we're not going to keep getting away with it forever. Like eventually it's going to catch up with us.
Yeah.
The Spurs result aside, I don't think we've done a podcast since you beat Spurs. So beat Spurs at the home place. Love that.
Everyone's
Best
beating Spurs, isn't it? Though I thought Spurs were the hot shit, right? Everyone was loving Spurs. Like, Angie's the greatest man in the world. Like, they're playing the best football. It's like 12th or something. Like wherever they are, just can't win a game anymore.
I don't think they are, but for comedy's sake, we'll say they're 12th.
I mean, that's hopefully that's where we'll finish.
Hopefully, yeah. I can imagine like David Moyes rocking up at White Hart Lane like Thanos. It's like all this high line possession football. Where's that bring you? Right back to me. Just low blocks of shit out of him and comes over, really jammy 2-1 win. It's great.
Yeah, every Infinity Stone is a 6'5" centre half.
Basically, yeah. It's like it's got Maverick Panos. Shit. The final one is James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah.
Ripping in corners.
Just pinging it.
Yeah, but like, yes, obviously we beat Spurs, which was great, and then we lose 5-0 to Fulham, which like, okay,Ll give them the benefit of the doubt. Apparently, there was a sickness bug going through the squad and whatnot, and like, fine, sure, I'll believe it because it looked like that might have been the case. They were bloody dreadful on the day.
Yeah.
But like, since then, we had a really good result against Freiburg. We finished top of our group in the Europa League, and then beat Wolves 3-0. I'm not going to talk about the League Cup going against Liverpool because they obviously didn't give a shit about it. So there's no point in me talking about it. It's done now. Like. No League Cup for us this year, but really good result against Wolves. See, great result against Man United. Like, it wasn't the best performance out of the group of those, but like we still came away with the 3 points. And then we go away to the Emirates and win 2-0, which is like we never win. I think we've only won at the Emirates like twice before. I think.
Yeah.
So this is our third time winning. It's the first time Moyes has ever won away at Arsenal in his career. And obviously with the whole narrative around Declan Rice and playing against West Ham and stuff, that's twice he's played us now. He still hasn't beaten us. So. Should have stayed, Declan.
Just start talking about his fee again now.
Yeah, exactly.
Audio issues aside, what were we saying there? So yeah, Declan Rice flubbed it again against West Ham.
Yeah, he just he even did his best to make it 3-0 by giving us a penalty in the 90th minute, which I it's like just he's a hammer through and through. What can you say? And like, you know what I loved? Like I can tell, I pretty much guess why he did it. But when he gave away the penalty, the camera cut to him. You can see him with a smile on his face. But I think it was that sort of smile of just like, of course I've just done that.
Yeah.
Of course that's just happened.
You could just see the headlines already.
Yeah, and so yeah, but amazing win there away. Again, just because of everything going on in the summer and Arsenal fans being their usual and softball self over the internet over the course of the summer, really great to get a win there. And like, obviously last night probably contender for forgettable game of the year or the century if we drew 0-0 with Brighton. But like, we got players missing, so did they. It was a bit of a drab affair, and I think it's probably one of them we'll look back on towards the end of the season. I think it's a decent point, like, and it's a 4th clean sheet in the row in the Premier League, which is for us is incredible. Moyes is known for setting up a good defense, but I've always found our defense been quite shaky under him in recent times. But like, we're back to being a little bit more solid now, and still, having a good attacking output as well.
Yeah, I think as well, like, if you're not having a great game, like, don't lose it. And if you're keeping clean sheets, like, if you're able to keep a clean sheet, and like, Areola has been putting in really good performances as well from what I've seen, like, just for the year as well. I think he's definitely like taken the gloves off Fabianski. Like, if you're keeping clean sheets and putting in solid defensive performances, like we were saying before, like, you've got James Ward-Prowse and a load of big lads. Like, there's every chance that even if you're not playing at your best, you're going to snaffle a chance in. So, and against Brighton as well, like, I feel like Brighton have kind of like not lost a little bit of their sheen. But I think a few teams, a few coaches at least, have figured them out a little bit. I know they've had like a lot of injury issues and things like that, and they did lose some of their best players in the summer. But still, like, they don't feel as like David and Goliath as they used to. Like, people take them a lot more seriously, like, and they know it's going to be a tactical battle. So I think to even just like get a clean sheet and a 0-0 against the team as well coached as they are is you can't. It's not ideal, is it? But you can't take your nose up with it.
No, but I think it's one of those things, because I was a little bit like, ugh, it was annoying because like I think we had 5 missing yesterday. I think they've got their injury list. It's like 11 players out, and like that includes Matoma, Ansu Fati, Tarek Lamperty, like really big players for them. So I did feel there was an opportunity there for us. But I was walking back from the stadium last night. I was thinking to myself, well, if you'd offered me 7 points from Man United at home, Arsenal away, and Brighton at home, I definitely would have taken that. So to get that, I think like I said, you can't really turn your nose up at it. And it's interesting about like, keeping clean sheets, you'll get your chances. I think that's what's been so good about the last few weeks is that the Man United game, I think, is probably a really good example of that, where I don't think, like I said, I think it was our best performance out of that sort of run of games. But we defended really well. Granted, we'll touch on a little bit. I don't think United were very good, like, at all, really, throughout that game. No. Like, pretty blunt in attack. But we've got, in that game, we got, do you know what I'll even say it? Probably one of the best attacking trios in the league on form at the moment in Paqueta, Bowen, and Kudus. Like, they've been absolutely unstoppable over the past month or so. Like, and you put that in any sort of, apart from Man City probably or Liverpool, but you put that like front three and sort of one of the other sort of traditional top 6 sides, they wouldn't look out of place up there. They've been absolutely fantastic. I'm gutted that Kudus is from Ghana. He's going to be away out for the next few weeks, but so it's one of those things, isn't it? Can't really be helped.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those teams that, even if it's not all 3 of them, like, they've all got a gaping hole. Like, Arsenal are struggling to find the back of the net. Like, they're not creating enough. Like, it feels like if Saka's not pulling the strings, then nothing's really happening for them. Like, they've not got a reliable goal scorer. Liverpool, if they don't have Salah in the team, I mean, Darwin Nunez can just like single-handedly miss every chance that he's ever given. So he is on his own trying to make a mockery of the XG stat.
Yeah, no, you gotta respect it.
Yeah, you gotta respect, like, missing open goals. Like, he's just bringing those XG stats down. It's impressive to watch. United obviously just. We can't create or score a goal at the minute. Like, it's the amount of games. I feel sorry for the kid, and we'll get onto it a little bit more in the when we talk about United. But like, Rasmus Højlund coming off the pitch with 0 shots, like, just a game after game after game. It's like, what are we doing? Like, just give him a chance, because when he has him, he can finish him. Yeah. We've seen that. Like,
so you need to give him the ball together.
Exactly. Yeah, you can take him, and like, outside of Son, like, nothing's nailed on for Spurs either. So I think you're right. Like, that front 3, in terms of creativity and kind of potency, like, you've got like a super creative technical guy in Paqueta who can create chances. You've got a pretty clinical finisher in Bowen, and you've got the X factor in Kudus, who, like, he just seems like he can pull something out of the bag, not on a whim, but like he is that game changer. He's the X factor, like that winning. He can just pull something out of the bag that can win a game out of nothing. And like you say, you're going to be missing him for most of, if not all of, January. And being out of the cup, I think it's only going to be like 3 games, is it? Like, he's going to miss.
Yeah, like we're quite fortunate, because I think we got the FA Cup against Bristol City at the weekend, and I don't think we play like we got the Premier League's doing this weird sort of hybrid winter break thing where they'll get some teams get a week off sort of in January. Ours is around that time, so like I think he only misses about like say like 3, maybe 4 games, depending on how far Ghana get in the competition. So hopefully it feels like we won't miss him too much. And I think our next 2 league games are Bournemouth, who obviously isn't going to be easy, but it's a home game. You always fancies at home, and Sheffield United away. So it's 2 games that like if he's missing, but we've got Bowen and Paqueta, we're probably okay and we'll probably get by.
Yeah,
but I think you're absolutely right in terms of he can make something out of nothing. Like I think the first goal he scored against Wolves and the goal he scored against United, like it's good examples of that. Like both times he sort of picks the ball up sort of 35 yards away from goal. He's got a couple of defenders in front of him, and he's just able to, work a bit of space for himself and just place it perfectly into the bottom corner. Like he's so clinical at the moment. It's unbelievable.
He has that thing that really good forward players have, where like the shot's gone before you realise they're shooting. Like he's just out of his feet really quick. Like there's quite a few players that like you always see, like Harry Kane's always like that. It's like the ball's into his feet before you know it, it's in the bottom corner. It's like you just get the shot's gone really quickly. Haaland's the same. Like there's no wind up, and it seems like he's got that. That was definitely what caught I think Onana out for your goal against us. Like, he just kind of like got it onto his right foot, and before you know it, bangs bottom corner, like perfectly placed.
Yeah. That's his weaker foot as well. Like, so you think he's normally a left footer cutting in from the right. Like to get on his weaker foot and still have that amount of accuracy to finish the chance off. Like, I can't think of a player who West Ham have signed in recent years who's come in and had such an immediate impact. Like, obviously, Ward-Prowse is an obvious one because of what he's been able to do from set pieces, and he's obviously chipped in some goals as well. But I think I think we knew what we were getting from Ward-Prowse. Whereas with Kudus, there was hype and there was definitely excitement around him. But we've seen it before, especially with West Ham signing attacking players from overseas, where it's like they come like with Felipe Anderson, Sebastian Haller, Scamacca, like all these players come with this big reputation.
Took 6 months to settle down, didn't he? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like there was a lot of expectation on those players, and let's say in some cases it works eventually, but not right away. Like, and other times it doesn't work. I mean, I'm flogging them for sort of half the price of what we paid for them a year later. Like, I think probably Payet was the last one where it was like there was excitement, and from day one he was okay. Yeah, this guy's world class, pretty much. Like, and I think Kudus, even though he still think he'd had a slow start, but he was still chipping in with goals in Europe, and there was glimpses that you could see what was what sort of player he was like and what he was going to do. But that's the thing that surprised me the most, how clinical he's been. I didn't think it's almost like when we signed Lingard. Like I didn't know when we brought Lingard in, never expected him to go on a run and score like 9 in 8 or whatever it was. He was some ridiculous scoring streak. And he's got that for us now as well.
At one point, wasn't he? Like,
yeah, it was ridiculous.
Better goal return than Messi.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate purple patch was part of West Ham for that 6 months. But God, what time it was! And that's the thing. I think I've been saying for since Lingard never obviously didn't return. We're saying we've missed. I think that's the one type of player Moyes has been missing, and why we've maybe not been our football's not been as attractive on the eye since, is because Lingard made us so much better on the counter attack because he could just carry the ball. Up, he could turn defense into attacking like just like that, and that's what Kudus is doing at the moment as well. Like the way he dribbles the ball, the way he holds the ball up, and you see it. Like if you go back and watch those games, defenders have a really hard time getting the ball off him. Like he's got a really good close control, and just before you know it, he's away from them. And I'd be here for more than a season. Like if rumours start coming in the summer about him potentially going, I'll be annoyed. Like if I can get at least 2 years out of him, that'd be great. Because well, it looks like Paqueta's going to be off in the summer. So
I guess like. If Paqueta goes, like, I mean, I know there's a lot of rumours about Jared Bowen as well, but like I don't see West Ham letting everyone go. Like,
no.
I think a lot of people, or like at least other West Ham fans that I know. Sorry, I'm cheating on you.
It's fine.
have kind of resigned themselves to like, well, Paqueta's probably off. Like, it seems like this betting thing's kind of blown over. A lot of very big clubs interested in him. He's got like.
And the release clause as well is the big thing, right?
Exactly. So he's got this release clause, but I don't see like anyone else leaving of that front three.
No,
I guess it's just who you can bring in to kind of replace that creativity. And that's not going to be an easier job, but I guess they'll be planning for it now.
In
terms of like going on to the summer, then obviously David Moyes has it confirmed a new contract yet, or is it in talks, or like?
It's not official, so I think the prior to like December, I think the line was always it's going to be discussed at the end of the season. Like we'll get to the end of the season, the board will evaluate and make a decision based on how the season goes, pretty much. But I think given where we are in the league, I think we're at our best ever points return at this stage of the season, like in the history of that's been the Premier League, which
I think they made a big shout about on Sky Sports or BT, whatever it was on.
Yeah,
it was like after it was like most points, like highest finish, highest position ever at this point, like, and you're coming into good form, like you're playing well, like you could make a push for like maybe top 4 might be a little bit harsh, but or a little bit tough, but I mean there's teams below you that want to be challenging for the top 4, so why couldn't West Ham?
Absolutely. So it looks like it pretty much looks like the club have decided to offer him a new contract, which it's an interesting one because I think if you go back and listen to the last podcast I did obviously a few weeks ago, I was pretty adamant in my viewpoint on it in that I wanted to see a change in the summer. I've kind of changed my mind on it, I think now, and like it's probably easy to do so when you're winning games, and I get that, and it football fans being fickle, shock horror, right? But like, you just can't argue with the job that he's doing. And even if the football is not, the style of football is not the type of football that I necessarily would enjoy watching. I say this, I like counter-attacking football. My issue's been over the last sort of 18 months is I don't think we've been very good at counter-attacking football.
Yeah.
But I think whereas obviously you got Paqueta and Kudus, it makes it a lot more. It makes it a lot more exciting to watch. Like when you're watching Paqueta just pick a pass out from nowhere, and all of a sudden you got a 2v1 or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think it's one of you can't like I said. I just don't think you can argue that you shouldn't renew. Like, of course you can go and get a manager who can play a more progressive style or a more attractive style. It's a bit easier to watch on the eye, sort of thing. But it's that even when I was sort of adamant I wanted Moyes to go at the end of the year, there was always that thing in the back of my hand of going like, well, there's no guarantee that like the person who comes in after him is going to do as good of a job. Like, I think there is some. Like I've always said, I don't think you can never convince me there isn't a manager out there who can take what he's done and either match it or improve on it. But it's just how likely that is that's the question really, isn't it? So
and how long would it take for a manager to implement that style? Like how much of an overhaul the team would it need? Like, it almost feels like I'm not. I can kind of look at it from the outside in, right? Like I'm not a West Ham fan. It would feel harsh for him to achieve everything that he's done, assuming that he has another good kind of 3-4 months to the end of the season.
Yeah,
or 5-6 months, whatever it is. It'd seem harsh if that was like the end. Like he's like, okay, assume he finishes top 8, gets European football again. Won a European trophy last year again. Like you might go further into Europe.
Yeah,
see how far that goes. It might feel harsh for it to be like, yeah, well, bye then. We're gonna go. We're gonna get a hot young manager to try and do something a bit sexier. And with the squad that's been assembled, yeah, like there's some attacking talent there, but it looks like it's a Moyes team. Like there's really good, like solid, well drilled defense. Like some, like, I don't want to say like unadventurous, but like just a solid midfield with a bit of an X factor up top. It was the same when he was at Everton. He had like Stephen Pienaar, and like you got Kudus here, like with a really solid team that is built in his image. So like how long would it take a new manager to either get them playing a different way or bring in a different team, like a different squad? Like we've seen it with Ten Hag at United, right? Like we want to change how we're playing, and we've kind of like reverted to type and like sitting deep with Harry Maguire at the back, nodding it out and hitting on the counter. It's like we're playing volleyball, like
yeah, it's gone full circle.
Yeah, it's like, but I mean that's another discussion entirely. But maybe it would be a case of like another year or two until like, okay, well, some of these players are attracting big offers now, and you can go, cheers for everything, Dave. We're going to give a new manager or a new backroom team 250 million to build a new squad rather than you buying 6'5" Croatians.
We do love 6'5" Croatians, but like not just West Ham. I think everyone does.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I think I definitely hear what you're saying. I think there are parts of our squad basically. I think if you got a new manager came in, I don't think there's actually that much you need to do. Like Paqueta is probably going to leave anyway, so you'd have to replace him regardless, like whoever's manager is. But I think there's a good base there, I think, to play a better. So I think Areola's like not saying every goalkeeper's not to play good football. Your goalkeeper doesn't have to be able to play out from the back, but Areola can do it. Like he's competent with the ball with his feet, which is good. I think you got Naya Figueres, really good ball playing defender, like and probably suits playing a little bit higher up and not being put under as much pressure because that's usually where the mistakes come from. Got Emerson, who's been for me one of the best left backs in the league this year. Like. Yeah.
He's been great for the last 18 months. Like,
yeah, he's just been superb. Like, goes under the radar massively, but he's such an important player for us. And then, like, Alvarez has been fantastic in the middle. I think Ward-Prowse, under the right manager, can be a bit more adventurous. I just don't know whether the system he plays in restricts him a little bit more. But like, he's definitely more than capable of being maybe not as creative as Paqueta is, but definitely not being as sideways and backwards as he tends to sort of fall into during games.
I think people,
and then, like I say, you got Bowen and Kudus as well.
Yeah, I think people unfairly just paint him as a set piece merchant.
Yeah, I do.
I think he's a really good player. Like, I think he's just a good footballer. It's just because he's elite. He's an elite set piece delivery guy. Like, I think it's easy to kind of forget about the rest of his game. Like, it's people. I'm sure we talked about this on the pod before, but people kind of done the same thing with David Beckham. So, oh yeah, it was just a set piece merchant. It's like, no, he was world class. He was a world.
Yeah, he was unbelievably good.
Yeah, unbelievable footballer.
I've always said with Beckham that people, because not necessarily because of his set free kicks, or whatever, but because of how famous he just is as being David Beckham. Yeah. Like that almost overshadows how good of a footballer he was. So because people just see David Beckham, the celebrity, they forget how good of a footballer he actually was. Because like I say, you go back and like I say, the documentary, it's obviously out on Netflix or wherever it's on. Like, the guy was unbelievably good in his prime. Like, such a good player. And I always say more proud to that level, obviously.
Up there with the best players in the world. Like, genuinely in terms of game changing and ability. Like, it was. I was gutted when, as a bit of a kind of aside, but I was gutted when he left United because he was unbelievable then. We got nothing for him. Fergie fell out with him and just like shit him off for 20 million of Real Madrid.
It's not like Fergie. But yeah, obviously, I don't think we're saying that Ward-Prowse is anywhere close to that level of player as Beckham was. But like, I agree. Like, I think it's difficult because there's games I've watched Ward-Prowse this year. I'm like, you could do more in terms of like when you have the ball and in possession and stuff. You could definitely be a little bit more adventurous. But again, I don't know whether that's he's making the decision to be a little bit more safe, or it's the manager. It's under instruction from the manager and the system he plays in doesn't allow him to be. Because like, there's been a few times this year where I watched him and it's like you see players making runs and he sort of sees it and he just sort of always you can always see him go, I'll just go back to centre back and we'll sort of recycle. And then in like 5 minutes later, he'll ping like a pinpoint accurate, like 40-yard crossfield pass to someone. It's like, do that more. Yeah. you're more than capable of doing it.
At Southampton. He's got that like, being an actual playmaker in his locker. So maybe it is just maybe he's still figuring out the teammates, or maybe it is an instruction from Moyes to kind of, the double pivot. Don't be doing 60-yard passes too often.
but it could well be. But yeah, I think so. Just to finish up on Moyes, like I think ultimately the big thing for me is I'm happy for him to stay, and I think the fact that there's even talk of him getting a new contract like at this point in the season probably indicates that he is willing to work with the new sort of infrastructure in place with the new technical director and all that sort of thing, which I think can only be a good thing because ultimately, if he's got a good working relationship with the guy who's in charge of bringing the players in, like the Stein's not going to go, here's like, I don't know, a Lionel Messi regen play up front by himself, David. And he's like, I've had Mikel Antonio for like, I can't work with a striker like this. What are you doing? It's like, I like to think there's a good working relationship enough there where like Moyes can say to him, I need this type of left winger or I need this type of central midfielder or this type of striker. Can you go and find me one who can do what I need him to do? And we've actually got someone in place now who can go, yeah, all right, we'll go and find him with actual, scouting and data rather than just like one of Sullivan's agents' mates or like, I don't know, people that Moyes knows. Because that's been one of Moyes' biggest flaws for me is the recruitment under him because he takes so long to decide on what sort of player he wants. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it delays our transfer window like significantly. Whereas if that's been not taken away completely, I still want him to have a say on the player coming in because obviously he's going to have to play him. But like, it's been well reported that like Stein and Noble both had a hand in getting Alvarez and Kudus in, and obviously then you got Mavropanos, I think was a starting pick. Ward-Prowse, obviously, a Moyes one. But like, my point being, like he's picking those players and getting good performances out of them, so it can work. So hopefully, if that's sort of all agrees and that working relationship is going to be there for the foreseeable, it could be it could be a bit of a masterstroke from West Ham to get him tied down to a long contract.
Yeah, definitely. And there's nothing to say that, like, with better players, he couldn't introduce a more kind of open way of playing.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good manager. He's got a lot of pedigree. He's got a lot of, got a lot of history. And there's nothing to say that, like, yeah, like, maybe he'll never be Pep. Like, he'll never be doing those kind of drills. But, like, to give someone better tools, and they might be able to kind of play a more open style of football. You're seeing it perfectly at Everton with Sean Dyche. Like, he was tarred for years with the 4-4-2, oofing it up to a big man, just sitting deep and being a low block. And we've seen it with Everton. Like, I think in recent years anyway, like, creating tons of chances, loads of XG. Like, yeah, they're still a solid and well-drilled team, but, like, there's a lot more creativity there. There's a lot more kind of expression because he's got better players. Like, managers that seem to get pasted with this, oof it ball, Brexit 4-4-2 stuff, were always managers that were working with slightly lower quality players. Like, the same with Sam Allardyce. You saw what Sam Allardyce did with Bolton when he had, like, Nicholas Anelka and JJ Okocha. Like, there was really good football there. Like, we actually got some good players, but you're still working on a budget. You're still trying to get the most out of what you got at your disposal. And now that West Ham are getting a bit more money, they've got a bit of European pedigree, they're getting better players in, they're playing better football, they're higher up the table. They're just going to become a more attractive proposition, especially being in London as well. Like, they're going to be able to attract higher quality players, like, away from big European teams, just because of the money they can offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you got the second biggest attendance in the Premier League.
We are.
So,
we do.
So, like,
behind United,
bringing in good money from match day and stuff as well. So, yeah, it's the future might be bright, and like you say, the grass isn't always greener with in terms of management changes and stuff like that. And I think there's been more examples of regret in terms of fan bases wanting a manager out because they want to play a different style of football. I think look at Stoke, just perma championship now, like that went down to League One, like, and it can be that kind of thing where, like, you make that change to try and play more attractive football, and it just doesn't work, and you end up maybe not getting relegated, but, like, you're back to square one, like, you're back to
mediocrity,
back to bottom half of the table for most of the season, and trying to find your way out. Obviously, there's the outliers like Brighton that have done it. But yeah, like, it
takes years to get there, doesn't it? It's like Brighton had to go through 4 years, like 3 or 4 years of Chris Hughton, and then they went to a Graham Potter, who was sort of a nice middle ground between Hughton and what De Zerbi's doing with them now. Yeah. Like,
you obviously see the progression year on year, like,
absolutely. And I think it's difficult. And I'm definitely guilty of this, as though these teams are sort of in similar positions in the table. Like, but it's difficult not to look at Villa and Newcastle and how Howe's got them Newcastle playing when they're playing well, and how Emery's had Villa playing recently, to sort of look at it and go, wish it was a little bit more like that in terms of exciting and, like, just good to watch. But the thing is, I'll never judge anyone for that being the main gripe with Moyes. Like, because especially if you're we shouldn't really matter, but, like, especially if you're a match going fan, because ultimately you pay your money, you want some entertainment, and if you go like the game last night was fucking dreadful. Like, absolutely. One of the worst games I've been to, like, to see, like, in God knows how long. Like, neither side was really at it, and it was just a flat, dead game. And it's like, there has been performances like that where you're kind of sitting there thinking, like, come on, like, 60,000 people here, like, give them something to cheer about. But so I'll never blame anyone for that being their main gripe. But I think seeing what he's done, especially, like I said, losing Rice in the summer and sort of going again and rebuilding again, and with his new look, size, and sort of doing what he did, in his first 2 seasons here. So it's just so difficult not to argue with him getting a new contract. And if we make the right signs in January, who knows, we could be getting a full season of European football. But we do need to make some moves in January, because, again, part of the reason why the game was so dross last night is we had no Piqué, no Kudus, and we had to play Pablo Fornals and Shai Benrahma, and they are not good. I think we definitely need some additions.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing with improvement. Like, you'd hope you can get a deeper squad to kind of carry you through injuries and issues like that. But Yeah, I mean, it's been like I say, been a really good December. Sorry, just dying again. It's been a really good December, and yeah, if you carry on, because it's felt like it's been a consistent improvement, like just like month on month, like throughout the season, it's just been getting better and better and better. Last night aside, but just improved performances and good results. Like you say, who'd have seen a 2-0 against Arsenal?
Yeah. Not me.
Yeah.
Not me, that's for sure.
Yeah, Moyes looks as surprised as anyone.
Oh, mate, the second goal win, I was nearly off down the road with my shirt off. I couldn't believe it. It's like 2 days for my birthday as well. It's a fantastic birthday present. This is awesome.
Yeah. It's been impressive, and even better because it's kind of like stuck the boot into Arsenal a little bit, who have bottled it, especially early this year, which it's been fantastic to see.
yeah. Actually, yeah. Fuck it. Let's do the Arsenal chat. Like, yeah. Because this, in a way, and I've got no affiliation with Arsenal. I find their online fan base quite irritating, and and Mikel Arteta is a twat. So I've got no and they took our best player and so on. So I've got no affinity towards them whatsoever. But I think from a neutral perspective, because I wanted a title race this year, I had pretty high hopes they would kick on a little bit more this year and run City a little bit closer than they ended up doing sort of last season. Because, much as I don't want to admit it, they did bottle it quite badly at the end of last season. Don't care what anyone says.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fully. They were 15 points clear at one point or some shit.
10, 15 points, I think. And just they drew at home to that Southampton team and were 2 goals down twice in that game. Dropped points away to us, and we were crap at the time. Had some really, really poor results. And this year, it felt like, I think we spoke about it last year a few podcasts ago. It's like they've maybe not, their football maybe isn't as attractive or isn't as exciting to watch, but they're just they look a lot more solid and they're just getting the job done. They're just picking up 2-0 wins, just good, consistent performances. And over the last sort of couple of games, probably since the Liverpool game, where I actually thought they looked quite good in. Obviously, losing at home to us and then going to Craven Cottage and losing, against Fulham played well on the day. I'm not trying to dig out Fulham here, but if you're going to win the league, those are games you should be winning ultimately. Yeah. And Fulham in particular, they were really bad, really, really bad. And it's that thing. It seems like their front three has just all decided to drop form at the exact same time. And it's kind of well, now what? Yeah,
the seem to lack a bit of creativity, which was something that just wasn't the case last year. There seemed to be a bit off it, and I think whilst on the one hand you can say they've shown a lot more steel and determination to get last minute wins. I remember the start of the season they were getting a lot of 2-1s and 1-0s with goals in the last 10 minutes. It's fine if you're doing that for 3 or 4, 5 crunch games a season. You're getting you're powering through and getting a result when it's going against you. You can't do it for 75% of the season. You're just not going to get away with that. When you're relying on getting it over the line in the last few minutes, it's gonna bite you on the arse. There was always the 1-0 to the Arsenal back in the 90s, and there was a load of United games that famously were won in the dying embers of the game.
Yeah,
but it wasn't every game. It was in big games, in crunch moments, and they're the difference makers. When you're scraping wins against 4-3 against Luton, that shouldn't be happening if you're looking to if you're looking to win the title. It was the same at the start of the season, wasn't it? There was a last gasp winner against Luton as well.
I think they obviously got the last win against United. I think there was a late equaliser against Fulham earlier in the season. Yeah, there's been loads of examples of it this year from Arsenal,
and it's just been. I think it's just relying on that a little bit too much. Not necessarily relying on it, letting it get to that point a little bit too much. Whereas, you should be going 1-0 up a bit earlier, or pushing it for 2-3, rather than, hoping you'll get through it. And I think that's going to be the thing that finds Arsenal out a little bit this year. Kai Havertz, even though I think recently he has been performing a little bit better, it's still just a baffling signing. I think there's way too much reliance on 2 very young wingers to be your output.
Martinelli's not been good for a while now. You hear Arsenal fans speak over the last couple of results. They've said Martinelli, he arguably shouldn't even be playing right now. His form's been that bad.
Yeah, I think he's got like 3 or 4 goals this season. Like he's just not. I think he spent a little bit of time out injured. But, yeah, so he's not been returning, like getting a load of goals. Bukayo Saka, as great as he is still a child. Like, and like it's a lot of pressure, and he looks like a toddler. Like he's got a proper toddler's face. So there's a lot of pressure on him to be the guy to kind of get a lot of goals. Like Ødegaard's really good. Like on his day, he's world class. But like there's just something missing there. There's no ruthlessness to Arsenal this year, I think. Whereas like when you look at Liverpool, like when they pull away, like it's like they don't stop. It's like, oh, we're a goal ahead, like bang bang bang. Like Liverpool, like the other day, like they should have scored about 8 goals. Like if it wasn't for Darwin Nunez, they would have. I think it was. Am I right in saying it's the highest XG ever in recorded Premier League?
It was like over 7 or something like that. Like
it was absolutely insane. The missed penalty doesn't help as well, but
of course
they don't have that ruthlessness, and I feel like Man City a little bit this year look like that, but they also look like they haven't got out of second gear yet. And I just get this feeling that once Kevin De Bruyne comes back and they get a few injuries back and Haaland's back playing, it's like they're gonna go on this 15-game winning run, like they always do every year. Like
I said on Twitter the other night, it's like you got to think about how like City are that daunting of a team to try and beat to the title. It's like even when they're playing shit, teams are still like it must get to like Liverpool and Arsenal being like, well, they're going to be good eventually. Win every game. Like, they're going to catch us if we don't.
Yeah. They're just angry. They're just getting themselves mad.
It's like they win 1 game out of 6, and it's like Liverpool and Arsenal still. You watch them in games, it still feels like the pressure's getting to them. It's like you've got a clear run here, like not to guarantee yourselves anything, of course, but to get some real daylight between City, and it's like it feels like both of them really. Like I'll come back to Arsenal in a sec, but like you speak to Liverpool fans this year, and to the point where I think I said this like sort of towards the start of the season, where I was like, it almost feels like there was a doom and gloom around Liverpool, and I thought they were playing really well, and like I think they had a couple of dodgy results, and it's like you speak to Liverpool fans, like no, we haven't really been playing that well all year. Like we've just been outscoring teams. Like you look at the Fulham game example, they just happen to score 4 world-class goals in 1 game. Like, and it's the same with Arsenal. Like they're not at that level as they were last year. And I think the real difference is, and why I still think Liverpool have got a really good chance to win the league this year, is like if Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus aren't performing, who are they bringing on? Nketiah, Smith Rowe, and Reece Nelson. Whereas at least Liverpool, if Nunez isn't up to it, or if Diaz isn't up to it, or Salah's having an off game, they've got Jota. They've got who's quite prolific in front of the goal. They've got Gakpo, who can sort of, he's a bit more hybrid, can do something out of nothing. Harvey Elliott's a really exciting player to bring off the bench. Like they've got options, whereas it feels like Arsenal, they've got their sort of, they've got 13 really good players, and there's not really a lot else outside of that.
Yeah. I think January is going to be really telling for Liverpool, I think, with Mo Salah going off to the AFCON. Because I think he is their X factor. Yeah. Obviously, like the guy had an off season last year, still scored 30 league goals. what even is he? But I think seeing how they survive, but like get through the period without him for him to get back, it'll be interesting to see how that all goes for them. But it's good to see. I'm just glad it's not Man City running away with it again.
Yeah.
And, the surprise package, not really a surprise package, but the team in second, I think they are now, Villa. Just seem to just, I know they've had a few kind of off results recently, but like that, they're again just ruthless. Like they'll get in front and they'll just keep taking chances. Like the way they play is like really high energy. They remind me a little bit of Newcastle at their best last year, where like they just seem to overwhelm teams. Like that game against Man City was the first time I've ever seen City look like we don't know what to do here. Like these guys they were so much better than us. They just overrun
second best all game. Yeah.
And they have that in their locker. They've got really good players, and again, like it was the thing that was put to Newcastle last year. Like at their best, they looked like that kind of first iteration of that Klopp team where it is just like gung ho, like high press, high energy, high intensity all the time, and you can just overwhelm teams like that. And there's a lot of that to Villa as well. But I think Emery is a better tactician than Eddie Howe. Like Eddie Howe has done a really good job. Don't get me wrong. Like I think he's a very good manager, but I think Emery has just got. He's proven it, right? Like he's a multiple, like kind of trophy winner with different teams. Like I think right team, wrong time for him at Arsenal, but he's now found himself in a much better situation with a team that he's got playing unbelievable football. So it's good to see them in there as well. Like as long as Arsenal don't win it, I don't care. Like I should really care more. Like if Liverpool win it or Man City win it, them being our biggest rivals. But oh man, like I've said it before. At least if City win, like they've only got 8 fans anyway, so you don't really hear about it. You know, we can always just bounce off the you've only won 2 titles in 30 years to Liverpool fans.
Exactly. Yeah,
but
exactly.
Arsenal fans, they're just even when
they are
even when the crap, they're insufferable.
Yeah, oh mate, like it's like I said, I know like you can make a case for every online fan base being generally awful. Like I think it's fair, but like Arsenal fans online are a different breed. Like my word, and it's I do, I really do. I'd be like, it's a slight tangent. I've got no issue with like fan media online and stuff like that. I think there's a place for it, but like what. Sort of because I think they sort of deviated a little bit from what when they first started, but like the model that AFTV were when they first started out and what it's sort of done to the wider sort of online fan landscape is just it's not been good.
Just completely blinkered, like over the top, like. Right, again, like I don't have any problem with fan channels. There's a few fan channels I actually really like. The United one that I watch fairly regularly, but like other teams as well. Like as long as they've got like a balanced kind of view of football, then it's generally fine. Obviously, they're going to be biased towards their own team, but like,
of course,
like you've got to have like a little bit of balance where it feels like I don't know the online presence of Arsenal fans just seems to be not that. It's like they're either the greatest team that's ever lived or the worst thing that's ever happened. Like there's no in between. Well, you can say that about a lot of United fans, to be honest. But I think
I guess so.
I just tend to block those ones.
Yeah,
everyone's just kind of in a post kind of success hangover. Like we're all just like shell shocked. It's like I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like I just thought we win a game.
Yeah, I was going to say at least United fans have got like a few reasons to be a little bit annoyed. Whereas like I think where Arsenal were a few years ago to where they are now, like it's progression. Like it's fine. If Arsenal don't win the league this year, I know you spent 100 million quid on one player and something like, but it's fine if you don't win the league this year. It's like you're still moving in the right direction, and it's like this makes me laugh. And I feel like I have to fight this corner for Declan Rice every year because pundits are idiots. Who was it? I can't remember who said it after the Fulham game, but a pundit came out and said like, well, you know, Declan Rice, they're looking at Declan Rice, you know, to sort of do more in games to help Arsenal win games. It's like, lads, he's a defensive midfielder. And I'm like, it's like, he is really good. He is good going forwards and he can offer you more in attack. But like, I'm sorry, if you're looking at Declan Rice to be, and okay, he's got a couple of last minute goals and stuff, but if you're looking at him to be the guy to sort of like pick a, you know, defense split and pass or whatever, it's like, you've got Martin Odegaard who can do that. Yeah. Like, you've got other players who are meant to be good at this sort of stuff. Like, what? Focus on Zinchenko being shit. Like, focus on like Havertz being a potential waste of money. Like, it's such a. I feel like Pogba got this quite a lot when he went to United because it's like, oh, well, he's the big money signing. If United don't win, it's because of him. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. Like, that's just fucking lazy. Yeah. So, yeah.
No,
does my head in. Yeah. Does my head in.
I get that. Yeah. Why won't your defensive midfielder win every game for you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But it's one of them for Arsenal. I think if Arsenal get like, I don't think Ivan Toney's the answer, but if they get like a decent striker, I don't think they'll get one in January, if I'm honest. I don't see how they can without breaching FFP. I don't know what their, you know, FFP situation's like, but like a lot of teams, unless you're Man City, Chelsea for some reason, are go on, say the line.
115 reasons why they ain't getting in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I can't see them dropping 100 bags on entirely because, like, how can they? But I feel like I feel like they might replace Jesus, and maybe next year will be their time. But you mentioned about City. Sorry, go on.
Before we move on from the Arsenal thing, is an interesting kind of thing. So Arsenal ran City pretty close to the title last year. We're leading, finished second. is finishing lower than second regression or failure if they don't win a trophy?
Do you know, that's a good question.
Because
the thing
you're looking like 6 years in, is it, or 5 years in with Arteta, who
5, I think, yeah,
won an FA Cup, granted, but not with his team. He just took over, won an FA Cup, and yet, like you say, like they finished 8th, 6th, I think, then second, like so they have been improving in the league. But like, if the only way to improve, and this is something that Gary Neville said, like, so I'm totally still on this. The only way to improve from second is to win the title. Like, that's the only level of improvement that you can do. So, like, at which point do Arsenal like look at the management of the team and go, someone else needs to kind of have a crack at this? Because whilst we've improved, like, I'm not saying this season, like, if they, let's say this season they finish third behind Liverpool and City, or you know, whoever wins it, even if Arsenal win it, whatever, then it's a moot point. But say they finish third or fourth, and they don't win the FA Cup, and they don't win the Champions League. Like, is that a regression there? Like, considering they've spent so much money, they've spent hundreds of millions in the summer, like, and they're still not at the level that they need to be. Or was last year an anomaly? Was that too soon for them? Like, was that their Leicester year? Was that their Spurs finishing third when they should have won the title year? You know.
Do you know what? I think it's probably more that, because no one, like, without the benefit of a time machine, but I don't remember anyone at the start of last season putting Arsenal down as title favourites. I thought everyone said they'd get top 4. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find, the start of last season, hard pressed to find like a non-Arsenal fan saying, "Oh, Arsenal will challenge this year." Like, it kind of, they had a really good start and they just sort of rode that wave. And they had the Europa League, they could kind of sort of half-ass till the quarterfinals when they eventually got knocked out. So I think, like, maybe challenging last year came a little bit too early for them, and they obviously tried to capitalise on that in the summer by bringing in, you know, one of the best midfielders in England, and, you know, someone in Kai Havertz, and I know they got unlucky with a Timber injury, but they, you know, made decent improvements. I think if you look at it in sort of black and white, that you can see why, you know, made the argument for regression. I do think there has been a regression in their play style this season, like, absolutely. I do think there is issues with the way they set up, especially with Zinchenko, because I don't see. I think he's more of a hindrance than anything in our Arsenal squad, but it's so difficult when it comes to challenging for the league, I think. One, because how good City are, but two, the amount you have to try and improve by bringing players in the summer to top what you did last year, before even thinking about what the other teams are going to do. Because you think Liverpool had a really off year last year, and then they've come back this year and look really, really good again. No one saw Villa come in. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's difficult to... So I guess in a way, whilst it could be seen as regression, it could be argued that way. I don't necessarily think that's like just down to Arteta, if that makes sense. I think there's things you can definitely lobby at him as, like, you know, he could be doing better. Like I said, I think their play style has been a big part of it this year. I don't think they've been anywhere near as good as they were last year. But I think there are other factors at play as well, if that makes sense. Yeah,
I just wonder how long it would be until questions really start getting asked about it. Because, you know, a United manager does this after 5 years, and the media would have worried about 3 years ago. Ten Hag's had a bad half of a season after finishing third and winning a trophy, and everyone's saying he's the worst manager in the world. Like when we've missed half of our squad the entire season. Like, so, like, it just seems like there's a different, like, that's all I'm asking. Is, like, when does it become a point of, you know, someone else needs to go? You can say the same with David Moyes. Like, you know, he's just come off achievement after achievement and getting good results, and still people are going, yeah, but they need to you know, change the manager for some reason.
It's all about sort of perspective, isn't it? It's like, because Moyes has got this sort of, like, maybe not necessarily in the media, I think, but definitely across, like, sort of fan bases, either West Ham or outside. Moyes has always had his reputation of being a bit of a dinosaur, and, like, you know, from not very good tactically, and which at times fair, at times unfair. But, like, you know what I mean? There's a sort of, like, thing over Moyes where it's like painting him in what he may or may not be. And I think against United, it's like people still look at, you said this before, people, despite what United have been for the last few years, people still look at United as like, they should be challenging for the league. And it's like, no, they shouldn't. not right now. They shouldn't, because they're not good enough.
Yeah.
So it's like, but because people can't get that. People think of Man United and they think of Ferguson and Giggs and Beckham and Scholes, and it's almost like people's brains can't fathom what United have been for the last sort of, like, 10 years now. Like, so I think that's probably got more to do with it. But in a way, I think it seems like Arsenal and, like, Liverpool's maybe a bit different, but I think someone like Arsenal, I think Arteta kind of gets a free pass while Pep's still manager of City. Do you know what I mean? I think it's like when Pep eventually leaves and Arteta's still there, it'll be like, right, you got this season. If you don't win it now, when Pep City aren't around, then maybe we'll have to make a change. But until then, I don't really know.
Maybe it just feels like there's a lot of leeway given there, like with the amount of trophies that there are out there to win, or at least kind of, put a fight up for. Like, if it keeps being this, okay, well, they've had their bad month and they finished third and got knocked out of a quarterfinal again. Like, it's like, okay, how many times do you go through that and before you go?
Yeah,
like this is too consistent to be just bad luck.
Yeah,
because
I think
good teams do win things, and that's you see it with Liverpool winning stuff, like you see it with City winning stuff, like and other clubs winning FA Cups and League Cups in the meantime. Like, not to say that United were a great team last year, but we won a trophy. Like, getting to a final, like going and winning the Europa Conference League or the Europa League or whatever, biggest trophy in Europe over there.
Yes. I think that is a fact, so I don't want to check.
Is it in height or like weight? Or...
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. It's, again, like, I don't want this just to turn into like Arteta's crap, even though I think he is.
Yeah, no, bait him, because you can deal with the traffic. So. Come on in, Arsenal fans. Tell us we're wankers. It's fine.
Yeah. Arteta's shite.
Yeah, he's a knob. I don't like it. But yeah. Right. Well, speaking of United, like, I think we've held it up.
I think that's enough for today.
Well, okay, we've kind of touched on we touched on briefly about the West Ham result. We don't have to go into it again, but if you want to, I'm up for it. But the United front derbies, I think, is going to be called from now. But, it's been. I think it's been. I was going to say mixed. It hasn't really been mixed. I think the Villa result kind of like. The Villa result was obviously really good, given the season Villa are having, the season United are having. But then you look at the Bournemouth result, the Forest result, and the exit from the Champions League as well. It's not been as good of a December as it maybe has been for West Ham as for United.
It's just more of the same of the year, like consistently inconsistent. Players. I mean, I've gone on about this before, and I as much as it is like, you can't just blame it on injuries. Like, you can put a lot of it down to injuries. I don't think there's been a single week where he's been out of play more than 4 or 5 of his like best players, like together. Like, you can see it. That I think there was a stat going around. It's like it's the other day when Willy Kambwala played. It was like the 11th or 12th centre back partnership of the season, which is insane. Like that is insane. And you've got players who were key to how well we did last year. Like Luke Shaw was mega last year. He's been missing most of the season. Lissandro Martinez was probably our signing of the season last year.
Yeah.
He's been out for pretty much the entire season. Casemiro, once he got over his rocky start, was one of the best players in the Premier League. He had a rough start to the season, and he's been out with injury since. Christian Eriksen, who was key in kind of holding down the midfield and keeping the ball, he's been out all year. You've had Rashford, who's been in a poor run of form. Bruno has been dragged all over the pitch, like not being able to affect games. And then like everything else that's going on at the club. Like, so there are mitigating circumstances, but by the same token, like there's still no excuse for the performances that the players that are on the pitch putting in. Like Anthony's the one that people keep going for, but I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's not going out there purposefully, not doing things well. I just don't think he's that good a player. Like you can't question his effort. It's not like he's going out there and just not showing up in games. He's just not got the ability to make a difference. Whereas I think on the flip side of that, Marcus Rashford, save a couple of performances in December, the entire year looks like he just can't be arsed. Like, and I think sometimes with like Bruno's not really turned up at all this year. Going from being the most, like creating the most chances in the Premier League for I think the last 3 years in terms of chances created, we finally get a striker, and the guy can't seem to create a chance. Like I
was going to say, like, on Bruno, just quickly before I forget, like, going back, just because I was at the game, so obviously, like, getting to watch it live, you get a slightly different perspective, watching on Italian stuff. Whenever we play United, normally, and we've had some decent results against United over the years at our place. Like we've been pretty good against you guys, but like Bruno's always the one that you sort of look at and go, he always puts in a good performance, and you go, if they're going to do anything, it's going to come from him. Thought it's dreadful. Just thought, and like, no, it's that thing. It's a mixture of like he's in bad form, but it looks like he's sort of almost suffering from what Rashford is suffering from, where it's like, is it he can't be arsed, or is it he's so sort of almost just fed up with all of it, and almost having the sort of weight of the team on his shoulders? Some of what I think Rashford feels like he has at times.
Yeah,
that he almost goes into his shell.
Definitely a thing with Rashford. I think like when he's in form, he's such a form player. When he's in form, and confident, he looks unplayable at times. There's other times where he looks like just terrified. And I think that's he's in that mode right now. Bruno, I think he's got a lot more, like he's the captain now. Like he's made the captain at the start of the season. I think a lot of when you see him in interviews, he's got takes a lot of pressure on himself as that captain and as the creator as well. And I think what happens when things aren't going well, he just tries lower and lower percentage chances, which look really bad. Like it looks like he's just oofing the ball into nowhere, but it's like
no.
Like he's a bit of a volume merchant. Like he'll try things over and over and over again. Like he's a bit like Trent, but like because he'll like hit that back post cross 15 times a game. He'll get an assist or two. Like, but Bruno does that really often. Like from silly parts of the pitch at the minute. Like it used to be a case of he's getting in that 10 spot, he's playing balls through, and every now and again like stuff comes off, and it's like he is quality still. But it's just not coming off. And I think that combined with poor form, people not finishing the chances, and like the pressure on him as United captain in this awful run of form, I think it's all just coming to tell with him, really. He's not turned into a bad player. And in terms of like his effort and like him running around, like his actual kind of on-pitch effort, like that's not changed. It's just his quality like isn't there. He looks like he's getting more frustrated. He looks like he's kind of, he's blowing up a lot more because of the things that are going wrong. And it looks like there's just that attitude on the pitch far too often. Like you say, the Villa result aside, and actually the Liverpool performance I thought was a good one. Like Liverpool had a ton of shots, but they didn't create anything. Like we had the best chances. We should have won that game. I think we had 3 really good chances to score, and like our forwards just can't finish. Other than that, like, it's just such a frustrating watch because we came out of November, granted, like an easy run of games. Came out in November with manager of the month, goal of the month, player of the month, right? And then to go into December and lose, I think we won 1 game in all of December.
Yeah, it's like 1 out of 5 or something, right?
Yeah.
Like 1 out of 4. Yeah,
we played 6. I've got it here. So we played 6 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. Sorry, 1, 2. Beat Chelsea, beat Villa. Like it's not good.
Yeah,
and it's just that kind of the Bournemouth one was the really big one for me. Like because it felt like a pretty even game until they got ahead, and then it just exploded. The West Ham game again. I think you guys. I think it was we were really poor. I don't think you guys were brilliant.
No,
until like the last 15 minutes, and it was like because that's when the goals came, wasn't it? Like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like first goal went in, we pushed players up the pitch for some reason. Scott McTominay was on the pitch, so we lost. It's a repeating process. This like that was what happened against Forest. Like you take off our only holding midfielder and put on Scott McTominay to go and play wherever the hell he wants because he doesn't have any tactical kind of sensibility. He doesn't have any game intelligence, and he just leaves massive gaps and put players unmarked. Like, and we concede from that. And like, there's a consistency with him being in the team this year and us conceding those goals where someone from midfield hasn't been tracked. Like,
yeah,
it's it happens all the time.
I saw someone actually put together a compilation of all the goals United conceded from cutbacks. And shit. It's like a 5-minute long video.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like the same goal over and over again.
It is. It is literally that. It's always someone like on the D, someone on the D or on the penalty spot where our holding midfielder should be tracking them. And surprise, surprise, we concede less of those when Kobe Mainoo's on the pitch because he knows what a football game is. He understands the concept of a football match.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was going to ask. Sorry, I was going to ask. Like, so like we obviously, again, there is obviously all the stuff with injuries and off the field stuff, which I do think is all valid. I think from a lot of the more sensible United's of accounts or sort of YouTube accounts that I will listen to or see clips of and stuff, it feels like over the last sort of month or so, especially, that like the sort of general feeling towards Ten Hag is sort of shifting in terms of like, no, we still back him. Like, we think he's the guy. It feels like more and more people are starting to question that. Where do you sit on it in terms of like, because obviously I know you know this, but like, it's not like he's without fault for what's happening on the pitch.
This one of the things that is thrown at him is like his in-game, like his substitutions recently have been very confused. Like I just said, like bring off probably our best player of the last 2 or 3 months, which is insane to say because he's an 18-year-old kid who's just like been dragged out of the academy because of injuries. But Kobbie Mainoo's like knows that position, holds his position, like he has that kind of, obviously not on the same level, but like that Carrick thing of he just seems to be in the right place at the right time, snuffing out fires before they start. Like, and he's comfortable and confident on the ball. Like he'll take the ball under pressure, and that's exactly what we've needed for ages. It's really depressing that it's taken us to drag an 18-year-old kid out of the youth team to do that for us, and we've got all these kind of international professional footballers who seem incapable of doing it. But like to take him off. And I understand the reasoning behind it, like from the interview. It's like, but you've got to have more, like, you've got to make a smarter decision. If you have one player who is doing that job, you need to bring on someone else who can do the job similarly. Like, and time after time after time, Scott McTominay has shown that he can't be trusted to play as a single pivot or as a central defensive midfielder because he doesn't have, like I say. He's got a lot of qualities, Scott McTominay. He is chaos. He is the kind of player that you should be bringing on for the last 15 minutes when you need a goal, like because he'll cause chaos in the box. Like he's a big lad, like he's mobile. He finds good runs, and he's actually an all right finisher. But like he's not got the game intelligence to play that position for 90 minutes. Like, and you see it because we just lose control of a game. He doesn't show for passes. He rarely touches the ball. Like. And that's what you need your central midfielders to do. And like so changes like that, like they just don't make sense. Like I'd rather see I'd probably rather see Johnny Evans pushed up into there, like to do it because he's confident on the ball. Like he I tweeted this out the other day actually. It shows what a shit show our recruitment is when Johnny Evans is our signing of the season. Like this guy who kind of just turned up to get a bit of fitness to try and find a club, ended up accidentally on tour because of injuries, and now he's basically been the best signing we've made this year. Like it is just absolute beggars belief. But no, he's been solid this year. Like I don't think he's put a foot wrong.
He's been good. It's been good.
He's exactly what He's been more than what I expected from a 36-year-old guy that we sold to West Brom 12 years ago for £4 million. It's a hell of a thing, but also just kind of like starting tactical decisions keeps playing Anthony. And I understand, injuries are a thing and player availability is a thing, but he's just consistently playing this guy, and I wonder whether it is because it's like he's almost a noose around his neck. He's spent 80 million quid on this.
It's his guy,
who he's brought in from Ajax, and I wonder whether he's like just like this fervently like he's gonna come good. Like I know how good he can be, but even like when he was really good for Ajax, he was only getting like 6 assists and 8 goals in a season. Like he wasn't tearing it up. Like he isn't the guy, and I wonder whether he's going to be the anchor that drags Ten Hag down because. We've seen with other players like playing in that position, like Garnacho on that right hand side against Villa.
He was so good. He's so good.
Putting him on the right takes that option of cutting in and hitting a shot on his stronger foot away. And I think whilst he can still, he'll still try it and he'll still dribble inside or outside. Like having him on his stronger foot on the outside means he's more likely to just fizz it across, which is kind of what we need him to do. Like if he starts getting more assists, then it'll kind of free up players to go because they'll be going marking the striker, right? Instead of just going to him because he's going to cut inside, we can put 2 people on him. If he's creating for people, they need to mark the other people in the box, which opens up space for him. But he was really good in that game. I think there's been a lot of games where, like, a lot of games where people are saying he was great when he's not been. Like the Everton game, for example. Like he scored a worldie. He scored the best goal of his life. But for the rest of the match, he was crap. Like, but he came. He didn't have a good game. Like, but like he gets man of the match, and everyone's saying, "Oh, what a player he is!" because he scored a world class goal. It's like, it's the old football manager. He's scored a worldie, so he's getting an 8.5 rating. Like, it was kind of like that. Like, where there was other players who were better than him, but I think having him out there offers more than Antony. I think Pellistri, even though he is just Uruguayan Dan James, like. When he's on that wing, like he offers more because he'll go past the man and try and get a crossing. Whereas I think Antony, I almost feel like he's trying too hard to justify his price tag and like the pressure that's on him. Because I think like he's a solid footballer. He's not a terrible player, and he's trying. I just think he's trying too hard. I've seen it a few times where. He does you'll find a yard of space, and he can pick a pass. He can find the right ball, but it's just decision making in the final third. And this goes across everyone at United, by the way. Decision making in the final third is absolutely terrible. Always picking the wrong pass, never seeming to do the right thing. The one game where I've watched, 2 games this year, where it felt like people were making the right decisions were the Villa game and the Chelsea game, where it felt like right decisions were being made in the final third. Everyone was on it and everyone was playing it, but we can't do that 2 times in 6 months.
No,
like it needs to be every game. Like you're allowed an off game. You're not allowed the odd on game. You can't be off the rest of the season and on for a couple of games every now and again. You can't get away with it the other way around.
I do wonder with Anthony as well if it must it must sort of suck. You come in for this massive price tag. And you must know he's been crap. But then for the following summer to see the guy who then took his spot at Ajax moves for half the price and is just in Kudus and it's just tearing it up. Yeah. Because obviously now all the questions are well, why the fuck did you sign that one?
Yeah, exactly.
This guy's clearly better. So that can't help with him either. But I think I've said to you before, he's an £85 million Benrahma. That's what I see with him. Again, he played in that game at our place, and he's just because we talk about it a lot and stuff. Obviously, there's a spotlight on him. I was points of the game. I'm just watching him. I'm just you just know what he's going to do when he gets the ball. Yeah. It's so obvious. It's if I can see it all the way up where I sit. Because I'm pretty sure our fullbacks can deal with it pretty easily as well.
There is the odd time where you'll go around the outside of someone and actually do something effective and go, do that more often. Keep people guessing, and then it's just back to same cut inside, lay it off, cut inside, lay it off. Just pass it inside. It's we don't need that. There was a big thing that came out. Was it last week or the week before, where it's about a lot of the internal kind of recruitment thing at United, where it was United valued him at about 25 to 30 million quid.
Yeah.
And then ended up paying 80 million quid with him because Ten Hag wanted him so much. I think it's a completely different conversation if we paid 25 million quid for him. If we paid 25 million quid for this guy, comes in, he's fine. If he's supposed to be the backup to Jadon Sancho, if he hadn't fallen out with everyone, or to a different player, we're going to give equal minutes to him and Garnacho, and he's a 25 million option, offering something slightly different. It's a completely different conversation, but to triple pay for him almost, it's insanity. Over triple pay for him, hopefully that with the new sporting structure that's coming in with people who actually know what they're doing, rather than a couple of blokes who have been at the club for too long. Darren Fletcher, who was a youth coach, and now he's a
sporting director or director of football. What he does, I don't even know what he does.
You got John Murtagh, who came in with Moyes from Everton, who's been at the club since Moyes.
That's mad.
That is mental, right?
That's
mental. And then everyone else is accountants and bankers and shit. It's okay, it's taken someone to spend £1.5 billion to walk through the door and go, should we not hire someone who's watched a football game? Should we not, someone who's been in football, who knows the football thing? Should we not hire some of these people for the biggest club in the world, or biggest, most famous club in the Premier League, whatever?
Yeah, of course.
Should we not run the club properly? It's like the Glazers went, Oh,
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, you
But
just do it. You just do it all. Like you got this. Like we'll just keep cashing out every year.
So it's similar to what Arsenal went through in a way, like when the Cronkies first came up, and like I remember back then it was like there was no one really in charge of. Well, because I think obviously Wenger looked after all that, basically did everything. But then there's this weird transition when Emery came in. They tried a couple of directs of football and it didn't really work. But they've obviously once Kroenke decided to actually start caring, they actually got an infrastructure in place that's worked for them. And I guess that's the big question and the big if with Ineos and the takeover, right? Like, is it going to make? Because I've got a few United fans in my Twitch chat and stuff who are like, oh, once Ineos comes in, like everything's going to be fine. I'm like, I appreciate the optimism. I'm not saying it's not going to be that, but like, it can't be a guarantee. And ultimately the Glazers still have the majority of control of the club, and I'm guessing still control, like obviously decide where the money goes and how much money's spent, and I guess it depends on how much they're allowed to do, if that makes sense.
My understanding of it is the sporting side of things is run by Ineos, with the caveat that like there's still like one of the Glazers is still in on the decision making process. But I think it's like three people from the Ineos and Radcliffe and then one of the Glazers. So like,
okay,
like if it's a 50-50 split, then I don't know what happens. But like the decision, the sporting side of things is in their wheelhouse. In terms of like when they come in and everything will be fine. Yeah, there's no guarantees, but it can't be any worse. I think this is the thing. Like the only way is up, because it's been so badly run and so poor. Like such poor decisions have been made for such a long time. Even just getting some competent people through the door to make the right decisions, like to not pay 80 million quid for Anthony, like to have somebody who knows what a player's valued at. Because like if we get a competent sporting director in, and we go to Ajax and go, we want Anthony, we value him at 25 million quid, but maybe we can do some like future fees, bring it up to 30. We understand like. We understand that you might want a little bit extra, and then they go 80, and then as someone who knows what they're doing would go, all right, never mind then. Like this just isn't happening. It's just not worth it. Like it's like, okay, never mind. Like that's how it should have gone. Like, and it's been happening for ages. It's the same with Harry Maguire. It's the same with probably like Mason Mount had 12 months on his contract.
God. Keep forgetting Mason Mount's a Man United player.
Yeah, so do I. But like, the guy's got 1 year left on his deal. He said he's not signing a new contract. They go at Chelsea off for 30 million quid and end up walking out the door 75 million quid lighter with Mason Mount. It's like, I wish I had something to sell these guys. Just overpay for it. But like, hopefully, just having competent people in those positions will make a difference, and having some joined up thinking about the sporting side of things. Because for far too long, I've said it before. I can't remember whether I've said it on the pod. I know I've said it on my stream loads. Like, when your CEO, when the person who's running your club, like publicly says, we don't need to be successful on the pitch to be successful off the pitch.
Yeah.
And when he says we can do things that in the transfer window, we can do things financially that no other clubs can dream of. You're saying we don't care about success and we're fucking loaded. That's all you're saying, right? So when you've got two decisions and decision makers like that at the club, they're the guys running the sporting side of things. It's only going to go wrong, and that's it's going to take a lot of undoing to get rid of the high wages and the general like malaise around the place and get back a winning attitude and all that kind of stuff. It is going to take time, and it's why I still, whilst he has, like I've said, like he has made mistakes, he has done things wrong, Ten Hag, but at the same time, like he needs a fair crack of the whip with the players that he's signed fit. Like, if we can get everyone back fit for the second half of the season, like, okay, maybe you've got a 6-month kind of interview process then to say that you're still going to have a job. And if he gets all of his players back, and we play all right, maybe get in the top 5, top 6, maybe have a bit of an FA Cup run, then he might show that there's still something there. If not, then they'll probably look elsewhere. but it's going to.
Do you think that's the likelihood that they'll look elsewhere and replace him, or just like again they might? I'll try. I know the Athletic report. It always seems to put out like in-depth reports of what's going on at United like recently, but I don't know. Like it seems like whispers are that like they've got other people in mind, or but like,
I think you'd be daft not
maybe
to,
you understand it differently.
Even when a manager's doing well, I think you've got to have a short list of other people, because you never know what's going to happen. They could, they could have a bad run of form. They could run out of contract. Like they could get picked up by someone else. Maybe not from United. Like there's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to poach a manager from United, but for smaller teams, but Premier League sides, you've always got to have like, okay, well, who's the next cab out the rank? Who's the next guy that's going to come in? Like, and you've got to have that plan. And they'd be stupid if they didn't have a plan for it, if it all went tits up at the end of the season. Because if we get to the end of the season and we finish 8th or 9th or even lower, and it's been a shit show, and Ten Hag's lost the dressing room, you can't just come out in June and go, all right, better find a manager. Like, who are we going to get? Get Ole back.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So like,
they'd be stupid. Say can't do that. West Ham made a living out of that.
Yeah. Well, the thing, I bet though, like I bet there's a plan if he doesn't sign a new contract. Like there'll be 3 or 4 managers where they go, okay, well we've kind of like, had a look around. These are the people who could be available. Maybe they've had a chat with them. I think it'd be stupid to not have a plan for that. Even if Ten Hag has another great 6 months, he could have a really bad 12 months after that.
Yeah.
Or like, he could have another great 18 months, but his contract's running up. And then at that point you go, do we want to stick with this guy, like depending on how it's going? Or do we want to go for the next guy who is, here's our list of managers that we've talked to, or like the look of, or like that fit what we want to happen at the club. So yeah, like they'd be stupid to not have a list of managers or have even been in contact with other managers. But I think every club should be in that situation, no matter how good they are. Arsenal should have it. Like City should have it for when Pep decides he's off. Like when they finally get charged and sent down to the Cheshire League.
Here's hoping. Well, there's a few other just bits and bobs from the last sort of few weeks or month or whatever, like sort of ones briefly touch on. I just want to bring up the fact that we don't have to go in depth, but it's just hilarious. Chelsea is still shit. And I can't remember after what game it was. They lost the game. I can't remember what it was. And Poch came out and said they need signings, which I thought was just like so just not self-aware at all.
Yeah, absolute. Yeah, read the room, mate. It's it's a weird thing, Chelsea, because I've watched quite a few Chelsea games this year, and there's periods in games where like they're really good, and then it falls to Nico Jackson. Like, and I've said it in the past. Like, I kind of feel bad for the guy, but he's just Darwin Nunez. Like, he's the same kind of thing. But the difference is there's no one else picking up the slack. Like Cole Palmer, I think under the radar has been one of the signings of the season. Like,
absolutely,
I think he's been great for him. He's chipping in with a few goals, but not much. I think Raheem Sterling looks a little bit better than he did last year. He's still not
gone off the boil. Like, started really well, Sterling. Just gone off the boil the last few months.
But again, like, he's chipping in with a few goals, but not getting a load. It's not like we're at Liverpool. You've got Mo Salah banging 30 goals in, and you've got Jota picking up 15, 20 goals a season. Like he's the guy who's getting the chances and he's wasting them. There was, what game was it now? I can't remember which game it was, but there was like a 4-on-1 breakaway, like going through.
Oh, Wolves.
It was Wolves. That was it. Yeah, 4-on-1 breakaway. It's like, surely they score here, and Raheem Sterling just drills it straight at the keeper. It's like, what's he doing? Like, just. But I think what must be happening with them is they're just all panicking because they're not like they've got the most wasted chances in the league and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but they are like a striker. Like maybe in Nkunku now he's back. Like he looks like he's got something about him. Maybe he gets a few goals and they get a bit higher up the table. But again, I think it's going to be an interesting watch because they are knackered if they don't get Champions League football. Like financially, they're already in danger. Of, violating FFP, and if it goes down the route of like what's happened with Everton and potentially City, and it's just like, okay, well, we haven't got any Champions League revenue, we have to sell everybody now.
I was going to say, because they're looking at selling Gallagher. There's rumours they're trying to sell Gallagher in January, and it's like he's
probably been their best player. Like
he's been their best midfielder.
Yeah,
out of that midfield that's cost 200 odd million quid. Like, I think I said it. Again, I can't remember what game it was. It was a game where they weren't playing well. But I was like, I thought about it since you brought up the last podcast I did, but I basically forgot about Caicedo being one of the biggest sort of flops of the season. I was like, it's going so under the radar, like that people aren't really sort of talking about. Like, Chelsea spent 110 million pounds on this guy, and he's not had any real impact. Like, say we on about Rice, and he's not scoring 30 goals a season, but it's like you can't argue he's not had an impact on that Arsenal team, a positive impact. Caicedo and Fernandes, for that matter.
Enzo's a weird one because last season Enzo looked really good. He looked like he was getting it. Like there was a few games where I watched and I was like, this guy's the real deal. Like he was just controlling a game completely. But I wonder whether it is just like, the inconsistency of youth. Like he's still a kid, isn't he? Like, was it 2021 or something?
I think so, yeah.
Like, so maybe it's just that, like, it's not a settled side, obviously. Like, they've had their injury issues, but they've also got 45 players. Like, so I've got very limited sympathy with that.
They're the one team in the league. If a Chelsea fan turns around and goes, we've got 10 injuries, I go, don't care. You've got 40 players. Yeah. you can have 10 injuries and get away with it.
Yeah. You're not playing Johnny Evans, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Newcastle fan looking over going, you are joking. Yeah.
But there's periods where they do like play decent football, but like there's just so many like obviously like just missing absolute sitters on a consistent basis, and just defensive like confusingly terrible defensive decisions.
Oh, was it Badiashile won against Newcastle? Oh yeah, in the League Cup.
But there was like games back to back where Reece James, who generally is one of the better like right backs in the league, I think on his day is world class. He literally just nodded the ball back through to strikers. It's like what are you doing? it's just like zero decision making there. But like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with them come the end of the season. I think they've got the players, they've got the ability to go on a bit of a run. Whether they will, like. They're a bit united in that they're consistently inconsistent. But I think with less excuses.
Basically, yeah.
They're just as much of a shit show, but in a completely different way. Like,
yeah,
they have got whatever players they want to play whatever system they want, and they've got the manager in that they want, who's a confident guy. Like, and it's just not working for him. Like they need someone to just finish the chances. I think if Nkunku has an all right second half of the season, basically just scores the chances that have been on a plate for Nika Jackson. Like, yeah, I think they'll probably finish top 10. Like they'll have a run where they'll win 5 on the bounce or something like, and like they'll probably get their shit together, but they'll still finish behind everyone else. Like.
I'm not convinced they'll put those ones together. Just because I've watched Chelsea it's just they're like a science experiment. Chelsea, it's sort of fascinating to see what's going to happen. But like the amount of times I've watched them this year, and their biggest, it's not news, but their biggest issue this year is breaking down teams who sort of sit in low and set up with a low block, and I think everyone else knows that now. Yeah. So it's like I generally had Luton down beating them at the weekend. I was actually surprised that they even then they cocks it up. Like from being 3-0 up, and like generally like Luton were going to come back and equalise in that game. Like I don't know. I've always been a big sort of advocate for Poch. I've always thought he's been a decent manager, and you can't really judge him on the PSG stint and all this sort of thing. And maybe it's a bit similar with Chelsea, and so he's gone from one basket case for a football club into another with Chelsea. But it's just to me they don't look any better than they did last year under Potter. Like I know, they're playing better and they probably create more chances, but like just in terms of like you say that sort of consistent inconsistencies, it's all still there from last season for me. And like I say, if they don't get, they're not. Like let's face it, they're not going to get Champions League this year. It's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like in the summer for them and what that means for them going forward. Because, yeah. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, going back to the Gallagher thing, like the reason that they're looking at selling him is because he is just pure profit, because he's a youth player. But like, you can't just sell all of your youth players. Like they've already got rid of pretty much all of them. How long until they sell Reece James? Like if he can ever stay fit, like by that token, because he'll command a big fee. Like I bet Pep will love him. Like
you can imagine. I just had an image of like Poch. You know when you play FM and you get to Champions League registration day, and you go. No, I've only got like 5 homegrown players. I've got a registered squad of like 18 players here.
I've got a 40-man squad, and I've got to leave 5 of them out. Oh god, they're all going to be pissed off.
Yeah. It's that's going to be really. I'm generally fascinated to see what happens with Chelsea in the long run, because, like I say, if they don't get Champions League this year and then the following year again, that could be the end of them as like a, as a top 6 club or whatever, or as like certainly as a top. I said this after Abramovich got pretty much booted out. Like, they're not gonna. I think maybe even before that, actually, it's like Chelsea aren't gonna win a league title again for at least like another 10 years at least. I don't think. Like the
landscape is changing, and I think you know what, like United are in danger of falling into that same thing. I think like if for another 5 years there's no kind of improvement, the one hope is that the whole Ineos thing changes the sea change that we need. But like I think United are in a similar boat. But I kind of agree with you. Yeah, they've spent like £1 billion on this new squad, but it's a new squad of kids, and like none of the parts seem to match. It's like they've got a Lego brick and a Meccano stick. Like it's like, oh well, build something with that,
Oh dear. But yeah, it's like, but even going back to I said like after the Abramovich, I think even before then, and I think one of the biggest reasons is even under the Tuchel era and when Abramovich there, I don't think their recruitment's been that great for the past few years. Like even before Bowley, like you look at like the bringing in Werner and Havertz and. Like people, I don't know. I just feel like they've been off it for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, I know they won the Champions League under Tuchel, and that kind of like, rightfully so, sort of overthrew. Made everything else not really matter that much. But like, I feel like the writing's been on the wall a little bit for Chelsea for a while now, and obviously Bowie's come in and just shined a massive £1 billion spotlight on it. But yeah,
it'd be interesting to see how they develop in the next like kind of 18 to 24 months, because financial and points restrictions on them could be massive. Like, if like I said, if Everton are going to get stung for 10 points for one thing, like one like mislaid or waylaid bit of funds, like Chelsea could be absolutely knackered. Depending on what they find.
Sorry, I really want it to happen because like people talk about, and I think it's not really their fault. Like people talk about like what City have done to like football and money's ruined the game and stuff. Oh, I said this. It goes back to Abramovich, and again, that's probably more on him than it is Chelsea. But he bought Chelsea, so like, and Chelsea fans lapped it up, and most fans would have done. But when the day of reckoning comes, you can't be annoyed when everyone else is going, aha!
Finally! We've been waiting for this.
Well,
similarly though, like, and I think this has really got not necessarily got under the radar, because I think a few people have commented on it. And again, there are like extenuating circumstances with this, and it's just I just want to like spend a few minutes talking about Newcastle. They've lost 5 of their last 6 Premier League games. They look disjointed, and Liverpool took them apart, properly dismantled them at the weekend. And whilst Liverpool are really good, and I saw them beat United 7-0. They can do it to people. even though we were better than them in the first half, I just want to put that out there. But Newcastle seem to be on a slippery, and I wonder whether if it doesn't get sorted, and you mentioned it before, they have got a horrible injury list. But at the same point, they've also spent a lot of money. They've got a lot of expectation. They got booted out of the Champions League. Granted, it was a tough group, but they probably could and should have done better there. And they're down in 9th. They're below Man United, and everyone thinks Man United are the worst team in the world. So at what point is serious questions asked there? Do the whatever state owns them? I can't remember which one of them. Whatever questionable oil state owns them.
Yeah.
When do they start asking questions about Eddie Howe, who once again I think has done a really good job as a whole since he's gone in, but were they just overperforming that much for so long that now they're kind of just trending towards the mean of where they should be? Are they just getting back to where they should be, where their quality is? And I wonder whether that's going to be a worry for them, because if they finish this low down and don't get European football again, how many of these big players are going to want to be leaving this summer? Like Bruno Guimaraes, who is in high demand and a really good player. Got Isak, who I think Isak is a prime Klopp player, and they're screaming for a striker who can finish. Like these big players like Kieran Trippier, who's been great for him. Well, other than the last few weeks, is like in his mid-30s now. Like how long can they last as a discussion point for this like top 6, top 7?
I think it's a difficult one. I think with Newcastle, because I do think, yes, I think they overperformed last year. No one would have expected them to do what they did last year, sort of, before the season kicked off. Thought they were fantastic, and I think, like you say, overall, Eddie Howe's done a brilliant job. I think we said this. I'll be interested. I might tomorrow actually go back and listen to one of the first episodes, maybe before the season started or whatever. Like, I feel like we both said Newcastle's transfer window wasn't as good as it probably could have been.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to point out, I think, with Newcastle, despite all their millions and billions and billions they've got, I think they are pretty hamstrung by FFP. Like, in terms of what they're allowed to spend. Like, I think FFP has come down, like, they're very watchful eye over Newcastle to make sure they don't just, do what Chelsea did, basically, and spend $1 billion, which is weird. But anyway, and the injuries have been a major factor. I think you speak about Ten Hag's not really been able to field, his sort of main 11 at most of this season. I think Newcastle have been in a very similar scenario, bar like the first month of the season, pretty much. And with the Champions League, you can say they were probably unlucky that they got, arguably got shafted in the sense of, I don't think it would have mattered in the end, but they were one awful VAR call away from doing a double over PSG. And I think that may have probably even got them into the Europa League, which would have been a really good, given the group they got, I think would have been a really good result for them. I think Newcastle fans would have taken dropping into the Europa League, because they would have had a pretty decent chance of winning it, I think. Or maybe not if the injuries hadn't happened. But it's one of them. My heart's saying to me, it's mental to consider sacking Eddie Howe after the work he's done there, and this is his first real bad run. But knowing the way football is, and knowing, say, the amount of money that these people have got, they are willing to put into Newcastle, they're going to now, because of the good work he's done, they're going to expect Champions League on a regular basis. So I wouldn't be surprised because there are rumours that his job's at risk. And it's all coincided with the Moyes contract renewal talk. So I was like, man, if they sack Eddie Howe, I would have him at West Ham in a heartbeat. Because I think so highly of him. even Tyndall. Yeah, because when I'm at the games, I can just watch the bench for the whole game. So what's he going to do next? He's got up again. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I'm a Newcastle fan. I think the idea of sacking Eddie Howe is lunacy, but I can understand people maybe outside of Newcastle sort of looking at it and going well, it could happen and maybe should happen, sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like they need to have a better strategy in the transfer window, because I feel like the big thing that let them down was, I think they invested too much in young players, which I understand Eddie Howe probably wants that. He wants a team of young players that he can sort of develop and help build up and whatnot. But at the same time, as good as he's done with players like Almiron and Joe Linton and the players from the Bruce era that are still there, it is still Miggy Almiron. He'll go through a purple patch, but he's not going to consistently be that guy for another season. And it's no surprise that his form sort of drops off. I think Joe Linton's still been pretty good, but you know what I mean. And with his injuries, you don't have bringing Emil Kraft and Jamal Lascelles and Dan Burn. And it's we said at the start of the season, they're good and they've been good for Newcastle, but they're not at that level of player. So really, I think Newcastle, if they won the Champions League this year, actually, I think they probably would be a little bit higher up, because they just play week to week, probably wouldn't have as many injuries, and they'd be sort of pushing top 6 again. I think the sort of first half of the season has just been brutal to them and just absolutely taken it out of them. Be interested to see what they do in January. And obviously the Tonali thing, I know people like to throw at him they should have done their research, but if he's hidden it well, that he was if seemingly Milan didn't know about it, and it's not out of the realms possibly that Newcastle didn't know that Tonali was going to get done for gambling. A few months after he joined. So it's an interesting one. I'll be curious to see what they do in January. They've been linked with Calvin Phillips on loan, which I think will actually be a really good signing for them. I think it's exactly what their midfield needs.
They need someone to sit in front of that defence. All of
Longstaff can do it.
Just crash the box, don't they? So
yeah, and Longstaff can do it. And for a period, sort of start of the season, I think there was when the Phillips argument comes up with England of who else can even call up as a defensive midfielder to back up Rice. I think Longstaff was one of the only few ones as an actual 6 that was being mentioned. But like, again, how many 10 out of 10 performances are you going to get out of him throughout the course of the season? Like, or how long is he going to sustain his run of form? And you're sort of seeing that's dropping off as well now. Like, if it can happen to Trippier, it can definitely happen to someone like Sean Longstaff, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they do in January. I think they'd be mad to sack him, but I think it'll be. Do you know what I think it will be like? Actually, do you remember when? And obviously it worked out for Liverpool because they went and got Klopp. But do you remember when Rodgers had the season where they challenged for the league at Liverpool, and the following season there was quite a big drop off. And there was a lot of sort of and ahhing about whether Liverpool were going to sack him. They decided to stick with him, but then like sacked him. Like they had a pretty ropey start the following season and sacked him anyway. Yeah. And I do wonder if Howe's going to have that sort of pressure going into next season of like, you need to. We'll give you whatever happens this season, but next season we need to see us back up near the top 4 again.
I think it might be a similar kind of thing to Ten Hag. The only reason I ask is because like they're down with United and Chelsea, like 8th, 9th, and 10th. Those 3. They've had an even worse run of form in December than Man United have. And granted, like I say, tons of injuries and stuff, and what he did last year can't go. Like you can't forget that. But also, Ten Hag had a great year last year. Finished third on a trophy, like finished above Newcastle. Granted, with better player, like a better squad and like a higher ceiling of player. But if he's under pressure, why isn't Howe in a similar position? And also going from that top 4 down to 8th, 9th, if they stay around that kind of area at the end of the season. It's a similar thing to Chelsea. Like, and Chelsea managers lose their job for doing that, like for drawing them down to the 8th. And I think it will just be a case of, I don't see him getting rid of him anytime soon. I don't see him getting rid of him before the end of the season. But like I say, if they stay down there and finish 8th, 9th, 10th, then the same way that I think Poch would lose his job, the same way I think Ten Hag would lose his job. Yeah. You know, I think whilst they did overperform last year, I think it'd be an underperformance to finish that low. Regardless of the injury record, but like just factoring in the demands of these new owners who will want more than that.
Of course, I just think that the difference between Newcastle and United is I think there's arguably I think the playing squad of Newcastle when everyone's fit. Like I know they've got maybe not when everyone's fit, but like in terms of who they're having to play and have had to play up until this point, it's kind of where they should be. Like when you're having to play Jamal Lascelles and players like Jamal Lascelles, Emil Kraft. Matt Ritchie got on against Chelsea in the Cup the other night. I didn't know he was still there. Like, so it's like when you're having to play those players, you lose Nick Pope, who's been a really good goalkeeper for them. Like, that's kind of where they should be. And again, even with United, obviously with United's injuries, that's probably where they should be as well, I guess. But obviously United with a fully fit squad, you could probably make the argument that on paper, United's squad is probably better than got more ability than what Newcastle have got, like across the entire squad. I'd probably argue. So I think that probably comes with greater expectations. And again, because it's Man United, of course, but like
players with a higher ceiling, I'd say, or have shown a higher ceiling in the past. Whereas, you know, you can't. I think Eddie Howe has definitely got a better team mentality there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas as a collection of players, I think United's is.
Yeah,
I think it's a collection of players. I think United's up there with some of the best in the league. It's just it's been shite this year.
So that's probably why there's probably more pressure on Ten Hag. Because it's like, well, you've got again injuries aside, but you got these tools at your disposal. Arguably should be doing better again. I don't necessarily buy into that again just because of, like you said, players missing. And I do think there is that element with Newcastle as well. It's like, if you haven't got Isaac available for a few weeks and Wilson's not available for a few weeks, it's like they were so reliant on Anthony Gordon for a period just because there was no one else. And even Lewis Miley, who's 17, he's been really good. But like, again, 79, relying on kids. And I just think it's where Newcastle are in their journey. I just think the expectations are, I say this without knowing what the expectations of the ownership is really, in terms of what they want in terms of right now. But I'd imagine the expectations are just different compared to what United's are.
There'll be a different expectation. I don't think a mid-table finish would be in the plans though. But then again, I guess you can't factor in like the consistent good performances of Brighton, Villa just kind of charging at the table. Spurs have been way better this year. Like there's
West Ham as well.
Yeah, well, there's West Ham as well. Yeah, but I've said this. I say this all the time, and I've said it consistently for years now. There's 8 teams that want to get in the top 4. And It just doesn't mathematically work. So like, there's gonna be teams that fall by the wayside. Managers are going to lose their job. Like, if you think Liverpool, City, and Arsenal would demand a top 4 finish, then you've got Spurs, United, Newcastle, Chelsea wanting a top 4 finish as well. Like, then you got Brighton and yourselves, like, who are actually performing where you could challenge for that. Like, there's too many teams that want that position. And some of them are going to fall by the wayside. And I wonder whether there's going to be, like you've predicted, like some teams that drop off and just become mid-table teams, or like lose that draw, or whether there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that consistently get that European Champions League money. What does that mean for? I mean, this is going into a different discussion for a different day. The resurgence of the Super League, like all this kind of stuff. Like, there's unless it's a constantly changing top 4 year in year out, not everyone can live at the same, like, eat at the same table. I think it's just going to be an interesting time, especially with, like I say, so many teams that have such high demands and high expectations. Like, you can't get all of these teams into the top 4.
I do wonder if Newcastle are, and again, it's difficult to tell, right? Because I haven't watched the documentary, because I watched like half an hour of it and realised what it was. It was a massive like puff piece for the ownership, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna bother. But like, I wonder if they'll be aware of what the FFP restrictions are and why they haven't been able to spend maybe as much as they wanted to in the summer. Because they did spend a lot. I don't think they spent it as wise as they could have done, but like, I also don't think they spent as much as people probably expect them to. So I wonder if the FFP stuff comes into it, but they're like, okay, we can probably accept that this season's happened, and we may need to re-look at our sort of transfer strategy and policy for next summer. And maybe the aim for the next sort of 3 years is let's just make sure we're in and around the European plate, like the top 7, rather than the top 4, which is probably more realistic. Because, like I say, with Chelsea, after what they've spent, they're missing out on Champions League for a couple of seasons could be catastrophic. Whereas Newcastle, if they're spending within the limits of FFP, then they can sort of just take it season by season, which, again, difficult to know whether that's the ownership will want or not, whether they'll expect to win the league in 5 years. But I say if FFP's been maybe the Everton thing has been a bit of a wake-up call for owners everywhere, where they're like, oh, okay, we actually do that. Maybe we do need to be careful because we might not be able to get away with it. And again, what happens with City is going to be a big indicator of that, I guess, if anything ever does come of it. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one for Newcastle. I think it is, because again, you got a different ownership. You got it's only a couple of years ago they were battling relegation. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it'll be interesting. I think it all comes down, like you said, to that what the expectations of the ownership is and what their demands are. And if they're sensible, or my idea of sensible would be, like I said, just try and make sure we're in that sort of top 7, top 8 on a consistent basis, and year on year trying to improve that. Or if they want Champions League immediately, then they'll probably they'll likely get rid of him in the summer and try and go for like a Mourinho or a Conte or someone like that, and they'll become a Spurs with more money.
Yeah, it's I've said it a few times. I definitely see Jose Mourinho at Newcastle at some point.
Yeah, I do.
I think he's just written it in the stars. But yeah, I don't understand how Newcastle are getting in FFP issues, because like they never spent any money previously. So like, and it's calculated over a 3-year period. So like, how are they getting getting scared of FFP? But then again, like you say, like Everton, obviously, how irresponsibly Everton have spent their money over the last kind of decade, and get caught out on some contract thing with for a player that went to prison, or like should have gone to prison. Like that's the thing that caught them out, because I think aren't Bournemouth getting investigated for something now? Like they're in danger of points deduction. I think there's a lot of teams that don't seem to have gone that wild in terms of spending. Yeah, are getting pulled up on stuff now. Like,
I think it's Forest. I think Forest are the ones that are being pulled up on it, which makes sense when you think of how much they spent last year, and they spent a fair bit this year as well, just by constantly getting players in. It's difficult because I know one of the big things for us is we've sort of come out of the West Ham is like we're on a sort of sell before we buy policy for this month, and it's to do with FFP. Now the accounts came out the other day. And I've tried going in detail, but it's really fucking boring. But like, I think it was Kieran Maguire is a football finance expert, does a lot of stuff around this sort of thing. and I think he was on a podcast I was listening to, and from what I understand, it's like in terms of Premier League FFP, we're actually okay. Like we're, if we want to go and spend another 50 million, we'll be all right to issue away for FFP that we're currently on a watch list for. Right. I think because obviously we've been in Europe the last few years, obviously the Rice money I think will help with that. But I think for us, it's more to do with like wages, and so that's why we're desperately trying to get Danny Ings off the books because he's on like 125 grand a week or like mental like that.
Yeah,
but like
the UEFA one's a weird one, isn't it? Because that's based on increase in spending rather than not losing money, isn't it, or something like?
Yeah, and you think before Rice went, we spent 100 million pounds last summer, but that was before Rice went, and then obviously we spent another 100 million this year, but that was with the Rice money. So I think that all plays into it. I'm not entirely sure what the deal with Newcastle's FFP is, but I know, I guess they spent like what 80 million when they first came in that January, and then spent another like 80, 90 million the following summer, and then another like sort of similar amount this summer as well. So maybe they're close to a limit. I'm not too sure. I need to try and dig out like an article where that probably explains it better than.
I'm sure there'll be a Twitter thread somewhere.
Listen. Yeah, probably. Yeah. if anyone knows of a Twitter thread to explain Newcastle FFP issues, do let us know because I'll be interested in reading it. Because it's interesting. It's interesting. Like, and it's like I said, I think it is the good thing in a way. Everton fans will not appreciate saying this. It's a kind of a good thing that Everton have kind of been charged and punished for breaching those rules. Because it's like, well, there is a precedent now for that sort of stuff, regardless of whether it's one charge or 115. But the key is you have to follow through with 115 and try and actually implement some sort of punishment. So, which obviously we won't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, I've said it all along. Like, I wonder whether these charges for smaller instances are setting precedents for your Chelsea and your Man City stuff. So it's like, well, look, we punish them for this, like for the exact same thing. So we can't give you a pass on this. Like, there you go. Give us all of your money. All your trophies are belong to us.
Yeah. God, that's a fucking old school reference, Christ.
That's an old meme, but it checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? I think we've gone quite over the hour mark. Got into extra time and penalties here.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else that you want to bring. Like, I mean, I think we're going to have a bit of a chat about Cooper and him losing his job. But again, I think we'll sit here and talk about that for hours. I think he's unfortunate too, but their form's been shite. And maybe he's getting out at the right time if they're about to get docked points. So
yeah, exactly. All I've got to say on Steve Cooper is, and I heard this on another podcast, is that someone described Steve Cooper as like he constantly looks like he's just got out of a headlock. Yeah. Which I thought is which is just it's perfect. I was on Jap and shouts like I heard that. So nice. Yeah, basically, yeah. Like, which you imagine managing Forest, that's probably the expression most times. Fucking hell.
Every time I walk into the dressing room, there's new players.
Yeah. Sees Divock Origi. What are you doing here?
Still bad.
Yeah, Christ. And yeah, it's like I think we were going to talk about the 12-hour resurgence and subsequent fall of the Super League again, but I think it's old news now. So I think we'll wait for that to resurface again in like a year's time and discuss it again.
We'll be back on Monday anyway, discussing the inevitable terrible results for Man United and probable decent result for you. I don't even know who we play this weekend, to be honest.
It's FA Cup. It's FA Cup weekend this week.
We might win a game.
Let's say talking about how getting sacked. If they lose to Sunderland, that could do it.
That could definitely change the landscape a little bit.
But they've just hired Mick Beale, so I don't think it's likely.
Well, we can have a little bit of an overview of the FA Cup. We've got plenty of other stuff that we need to catch up on for the from the December period, and we'll do that on Monday, I guess. But yeah, let's we'll stick a pin in it for this episode, guys. Thank you for you all for coming back after a few weeks off and listening to this or watching it however you ingest the podcast. Make sure you drop a like, give a follow, subscribe, do whatever you do on the platform that you have platformed us on, and we'll catch you all next time. Cheers for dropping in.
Bye, everyone.